hello, fans, watchers. Welcome to Southeast Iowa Union Prep Sports Plus with me, Andy Kretzinger, and my co-host,
Hunter Moeller.
whose name is Hunter. I like your hair today. You got a little floop going on the top.
Dude, it was kind of wild before. I was just like, I gotta do something.
There's an athlete that has hair like that, but I'm trying to think of who. Not our athlete, like a pro athlete. I'm trying to think of who
You
it
don't
is.
want to see the back of my head though.
Oh yeah,
A little bald spot right there,
starting to bald out a little bit.
Bald out a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you say bald out?
Yeah, I said bald out.
Oh no, well, you know what? We have to start making some more money on this show so you can get a haircut. That really good. And you know how we're going to is because of our lovely sponsors, including our title sponsor, Fairway, powered by Fairway, as usual.
Yep.
Per the usual. I'm drinking a little. Get yourself some pop at Fairway. I went and got myself a pop today and some flavored water that my daughter drinks to be healthy so she can run fast for soccer. And I was like, you know what? I want to be healthy too. And couldn't do it. I was like 1/4 of the bottle. I was like, I got to switch out, man. I got to get caffeine in. So we're talking a little everything, but we're going to start with a little football. And Hunter, you just happened to be at one of our most anticipated football games every single year, the Highway 1 Battle. We need a nickname for that, but go ahead.
Yeah, Washington taking on Fairfield this year. It was in Washington. Case Field, always a great place to go watch a game on a Friday night. Really nice weather too for some football. Yeah. Last year, Fairfield got the better of Washington this time around. Washington was looking to get a little payback, and they did. It was another down to the wire finish. I feel like both of these teams, obviously aside from Fairfield's matchup with Fort Madison last week, we've seen some great games down to the wire. Takes pretty much every second, every minute of the game. That's what it feels like it's been, especially for Washington. They've had some close games the opening 3 weeks of the season, but they win this one 34-26. Early on in the second quarter, or I guess late in the second quarter, another low-scoring contest early. Washington held just a 7-6 lead, but then Cale Williams, who had a massive night, he stepped in to play quarterback. Logan McDowell was dealing with an injury. Someone told me it was a groin injury that he was dealing with. So Cale Williams, who is normally the running back, stepped up to play quarterback. He extended that Washington lead with a 57-yard touchdown to make it 14-6 just before the half. Mentioned the massive night for him. Williams had not eclipsed 30 yards rushing in each of the Demons' first two games. He finished with 350 all-purpose yards, 4 touchdowns on the night against the Trojans. That included 234 yards on the ground and 116 through the air. And he also probably made the biggest defensive play of the night. But Fairfield stayed right in it out of the half. The Trojans put together a 12-play drive that ended in 6 after Voss Richardson hit Spencer McCready in the back of the end zone. McCready kind of bobbled the ball after kind of diving for the catch and somehow hung on to it. It was a pretty wild score there for them. But they failed the 2-point attempt and still trailed Washington 14-12. On the defensive side of the ball, Fairfield came up big. They forced Washington to punt on a 3-and-out, and on their next drive, the Trojans got a chance to take the lead. Got down deep into Washington territory in 10 plays, but inside the 20, Washington forced a fumble, and once again, the Demons delivered a 21-yard rush by Williams. Once again, put the Demons that put them in great field position, and then he ended up hitting Mason Morgan for a 47-yard gain. And on the next play, Caden Griner kind of bounced outside and passed a few Trojan defenders to make it 21-12. Fairfield answers back once again. Pair of big pass plays, a 29-yard reception from Ethan Bisgard and a 32-yard catch from Spencer McCready put the Trojans once again in Washington territory. And after a pair of runs, culminating in 16 yards, Richardson hit Bisgard for an 18-yard touchdown to make it 21-19. And then it was kind of a back and forth battle. Washington scored on the following drive as Williams went down the Trojan sideline for a sub 47-yard touchdown to make it 28-19. Once again, Fairfield comes back. Bisgard takes the ensuing kickoff 90 yards to the house to make it 28-26. And then from then on out, obviously, Washington wouldn't let them get any closer. The Demons kind of milked the clock in the end on a 9-play drive. Ended with Williams in the end zone for the 4th time, as I mentioned, 4 touchdowns for him. They missed the extra point, which was kind of huge because that meant with the touchdown, Fairfield could still get it with the 2-point conversion. So it was 34-26. Just a couple minutes to go. Fairfield was looking good on their final drive. After a solid return, they got him over midfield. The Trojans went 35 yards in 4 plays to put them inside the Washington 10-yard line. A huge penalty. There were moments throughout this one where penalties kind of really hurt Fairfield as it pertained to kind of the momentum they had in the drive. None bigger than this one. They had a 12 men on the field penalty, pushed them back 10 yards. So it was pretty much, they were right near the 5-yard line, and they were moving the ball on the ground, and it made it 3rd and 15, which was a tough spot, and then it felt like all the momentum right there shifted to Washington. In 4-down territory, Washington came up big, forced the 4th down. Obviously, 4-down territory at that point, as I mentioned. They had to make a pass, to get it down there, or to at least try to get to the 1st down marker or get the score. But Richardson's pass was picked off by guess who? Williams, and then the Demons were able to kneel it out. Washington moves to 3-0 undefeated, and Fairfield drops to 1-2. So yeah, huge win for Washington. I haven't looked this up, but I meant to look it up before we started this, but can't remember the last time they were 3-0. Maybe but along with Williams, Kane Griner finished with 56 rushing yards. Mason Morgan had 98 receiving yards on 2 catches. Jude Carter with 8 tackles for the Demons in this one. So another huge win for Washington. They've been really kind of focused. I mean, the last 3 weeks, each of their games has been decided by a possession or less. So if you're Washington, you got to be feeling good that you probably wouldn't want to cut it as close as it's been, but hey, they've been getting the job done. So they're looking good. And Fairfield's been playing good ball too. Each of their 2 losses has been literally a toss up of one play makes the difference. So, or one drive, or, whatever makes the difference. So, if you're either team, Fairfield's probably feeling bad because they lost, but, they're right there in the end. So,
yeah. I don't know when the last time Washington would have been 3-0. They had up a few years ago, they were, a dome contender, maybe 7-8 years ago, but I don't know. I would imagine some of their early non-conference games or non-district games would have been tough teams, to get them ready. And I know they have some bigger schools up north that they would play sometimes. So I don't know. We'll have to look that up, see when last time they were 3-0.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, Fairfield could be 3-0.
Exactly.
They could, and we'll see. Fairfield's got Keokuk. That'll be very interesting, not only for Fairfield, but will be an interesting comparison to see where Keokuk, who's been playing a lot of really good teams early, stands up versus how Mount Pleasant and Washington did. Mount Pleasant, Washington basically did a close win. So I was in we were both in 2 different places. We'll get to that later because we were rolling around. I guess you saw 4 of our teams. I saw 2. So we saw 6 teams live in that short amount of time. But I ended up in Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant was looking for their first home win in over 1,400 days since 2020. They kind of flirted with it the week before, playing a really good West Burlington team. You were there, and it was a tight game. So they're playing Tipton. Tipton, the last few years hadn't been great, but they are kind of one of those teams that have been slowly rising. And this year, they absolutely crushed their first 2 opponents. They were outscoring opponents like 100 and something to 6 or something like that. So Tipton got the ball, drove down, and got a field goal. By the way, this is a great field. The kickers had a great game in this one. Tipton got a long field goal, but Tipton's starting quarterback, Aiden Boston, who was a huge part of their team, did get banged up and did not return. He took a hit. I was like kind of in a pile, and he was down for a while, and he just, like it was more upper body, and so he didn't return. And so Tipton had to go to their backup quarterback, who had a nice arm but struggled with accuracy for a little while. And while they were struggling to figure out their offense, Mount Pleasant was just kind of marching down the field. Cooper Coleman had a couple touchdowns early. Mount Pleasant got a safety from Peyton Walker. They got a field goal from Dylan White, and it was 19-3 late in the second quarter. You started to think like, oh my gosh, like Mount Pleasant's maybe just gonna, keep the Jets on, and this is going to be one of those, blowout wins. However, Tipton may not have had a lot of offensive success at the time, but their kick returner, it was 19-3. Took the kick all the way back to the end zone for a touchdown. That made it 19-10 at halftime, which is a totally different field than 19-3.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, Tipton cut it to two different times. They first off, they got the ball. I think Mount Pleasant started with the ball, so Tipton got the ball at some point there, either on a kick return or a punt return, very, very early in the third, and same guy almost scored. Wyatt, what was that guy's name? Wyatt something. He was super quick, and he killed Mount Pleasant last year at Tipton, and he was starting to do it again. So they cut it down to 2 points, two different occasions. The first time they cut it down to 2 was 1917, and Avon Trong had a 56-yard touchdown down the sideline. Really cool play. He Avon just keeps getting open the last 3 weeks, and him and Zach Newton just hadn't quite connected. And Avon actually told me after the game that he switched at the last second. He switched where he was standing because he wanted to be the one going out for a deep ball, and they finally hit it. Perfect pass by Zach. Avon, was well ahead of his defender, so that pushed it to 26-17, and then Tipton scored again, back to 2 points at 26-24, and the big drive in the game was right at the end. Mount Pleasant drove down in the fourth quarter. They ate up all the clock they could. There was a moment, second or third down, where they had been running the ball so well, and this one was just give it to Peyton Walker and watch him run people over. And Zach Newton was doing a lot of running too. They do some bootlegs and stuff like that, and he would just run over people. And so they're using kind of the power run game, and hit a play action down to Trong again inside the 5. Walker scored on that one, and that was pretty much all she wrote. That made it 33-24. And then Tipton was desperately trying to get the ball down quick, but there was less than 4 minutes at that point, so they were rushing. So Mount Pleasant 33-24, first win in over 1,400 days at Maple Leaf Athletic Complex. And in this one, we had the big stat really was that Avon Trong had 3 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown, which the passing game, as we said, had been struggling. Zach Newton went for 151 and a touchdown. He completed 8 of his 14 passes. He also ran for 45. The running game was just so balanced. Peyton Walker went for 58 and a touchdown. Coleman had 50 and a couple touchdowns, and Newman had, Zach Newton had 45 yards. So just, you didn't know who was going to get the ball. And they all did a pretty good job running. It was just a nice balanced attack from the offense. Walker had a crazy game on defense. He had that safety. He had eight and a half tackles, and 8 were solo. Merrick Lamb had a big fumble recovery on a kick. Kellen Cohurst had a leaping interception that was batted up in the air. They had a few different times when a defensive lineman would bat a pass up in the air, and Cohurst made like a jumping, like, where the defender or the offensive player realizes that he might get it, and so he starts to kind of push him and tackle him, trying to get him away from it. But Kellen Cohurst now two takeaways in 3 games. And 33-24, big for Mount Pleasant. They are now 2-1. That is also the first time since 2020 that they were 2-1.
Yeah.
And now they're going to play Burlington, and Mount Pleasant all of a sudden not looking so much like, oh, maybe Mount Pleasant will get a couple wins this week or this year, but they're looking like Mount Pleasant's a pretty dangerous team. They might start popping off here. So, at Burlington, they're they're going to be pretty similar teams next week. You'll be there running around the big city of Burlington after that in the Mid Prairie game at Westby. But yeah, there's definitely excitement. I would say just of our three big school teams, Washington, Fairfield, and Mount Pleasant, they there's not very many games this year, and they're all in really tough districts. But there's not very many games this year where they'll struggle to compete.
No,
they're all good enough to compete.
Yes, they are.
Which is
and
good.
I think that's why we get like so forward. I mean, I guess we look forward to seeing them play each other because
uh-huh.
in the past, like the past couple years, it's been Washington and Fairfield have kind of just been the two competing. I guess of just out of our three area teams, it's it's kind of Mount Pleasant's been kind of lower than the rest of the at least Southeast Conference opponents, and now you're seeing Mount Pleasant kind of climb into that, I guess, that higher rank there now. And so it's just good to see that everybody's kind of competing, and no one's really blowing anybody out as it pertains to our schools facing one another.
You just made me think about okay, so Mount Pleasant's going to be on the road twice, Burlington, Mount Vernon, and then the big game where Washington will be in Mount Pleasant for the Mount Pleasant homecoming game, which is that's the only district game between the three because Fairfield's out of that district, but that's the only remaining game out of the three, the three rivalry games between those three teams that we see every year. So got a few more weeks, been spoiled a little bit because we had Mount Pleasant, Fairfield so early and Fairfield and Washington so early, but that might be an interesting one. Small school wise, now Hunter and I actually started at the small schools. Hunter drove up to Waco. We talked about last week that this particular week was just like absolutely stacked with games. So we're going to start the small school rundown. Hunter, you were at Waco and Winfield Union, and we thought it was going to be like 100 points scored, and you saw like almost all the points while you were there. It slowed down after you left.
In the first quarter. And in fact, when I was leaving this game, I heard the announcer over the intercom say Waco touchdown. I was like, well, there's another one that I missed because I was leaving to go up to Washington. But looking at this game, obviously, Winfield, the past couple of years, if team has been a state semifinalist, if not state finalist. So it's been a little lopsided the past 2 years on both sides, but we expected this one to be a really good one. It was a really good one. Waco ended up pulling away in the second half. Waco wins this one 40-28, but it was just 20-18 at the half. And like you mentioned in that first quarter, it was just like score after score, like just like each possession was lasting like 30 seconds. But the Wolves get things going in this one. Jake Edwards hit Nicholas Sparrow for a 65-yard touchdown to kick off the scoring. Edwards kind of rolled out to the right and looked back across the field to a wide open Sparrow right next to the Waco sideline, and there was no one within 20 yards. And he pretty much just walked into the end zone. Mentioned it being a back and forth and fair. Waco answers right back as Loudon Hasengay darted through the Wolves defense for a 38-yard touchdown. That was a big night for him. That was just the start of it. He ended up finishing with 149 yards and 5 touchdowns to lead Waco. WMU stayed right in it. On the next possession, Jake Edwards kept it himself for a 65-yard touchdown to put the Wolves back on top, 12-17 or 12-7. Edwards had a great game under center despite the loss. Threw for 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, also rushed for 106 and a touchdown as well. So, but then on the Warriors' next drive, Hasengay struck again, put them back on top 14-12, and then both teams scored once more in the second quarter. I was gone by then. But the rest of the way out in the second half, really the Waco defense really stood out, and they kind of just kept on scoring too. Ended up outscoring WMU 20-6 in the second half. That was and that included 0 in the fourth quarter. So, despite not being there, it looks like the Warriors just kind of took over in that second half. But Clayton Miller for Waco threw for 120 yards and rushed for 97. Hayden Shellman was pretty outstanding. He's been one of the best returners I've seen. I think I've been to 2 Waco games now, and he took an 85-yard kick return to the house. But in this one, he racked up 185 return yards, which included a 74-yard touchdown. He's got to be one of the best returners in the area for sure. Lane Genkinger for WMU ran for 89 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 7 passes for 128 yards in the score, and then Sparrow caught 3 passes for 86 yards in the touchdown. So Waco wins the latest of the WMU Waco rivalry here. I don't know. You have a little nickname for that one too, don't you?
No, we need to come up with nicknames for everything.
I feel like there should be a nickname for that one, but
we're gonna that should be our goal before next year when we have one of these. But there are nicknames for the backyard brawl between SK and Pekin and which isn't going on this year. This would be a great year for it.
Yeah.
And people don't really call Mount Pleasant Fairfield the War on 34. That's I'm from Sheraton, Albia. They call it the War on 34 because it rhymes. But I just call it anyway. Real quick, did you see? Because I went on a binge a little bit on going through the videos and watching just a few highlights. And did you see Shellman's kick return where they tried to onside kick it?
Yeah,
I thought that would have been right after you left, or maybe it was when we were on the phone because I think that he almost scored when we were on. You had called me. You were walking away from the stadium.
Yeah. That was actually probably the one. They did they tossed the ball back. Like they did they threw it across the field and he ran like 65 yards into the WMU 10 or 5 or something.
Yeah, Winfield onside kicked it, and I don't even know who scooped it, but he immediately turned it. It was like a sweep play. Like he just turned and swept it to Shellman.
And they were not expecting it.
No, it was the announcers that were doing the game weren't either. It was and it was perfectly executed. Yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy dangerous. Also, I think WMU might have had more total yards in this game, despite probably a lot of that could have been because of the kick return yards, but despite the loss. So closest game between those two in a long time.
Yeah.
I went to a little bit of Iowa Valley versus New London now. We know how good Waco is, how many weapons they have, and Iowa Valley was able to run away from them. So we know Iowa Valley is for real. I've been ranking them very high. I don't know where they ended up in this week's Gazette rankings. They were number 7 going to this game against New London. First time for me seeing Nolan Kriegel at all, and I don't think I saw Iowa Valley last year, but he was pretty incredible. New London had everyone's eyes on him, but he runs for 5 or 6 yards. It takes 5 guys to bring him down. And then he just gets up and runs the other side and does the exact same thing. So Iowa Valley 72-21.
They're number 6.
They're number 6 now. Yeah. Gavin Mickey Bailey threw for 62 yards and a touchdown. He ran for 1 too. London Franklin caught a 25-yard touchdown pass from Mickey Bailey, and then Brigham Porter, speaking of kick returners, scored on a kick return. So New London scored 3 times, but all Iowa Valley in that one. By the way, now the last 5 years between the two, that the winner of the game has scored at least 68 points because we talked about that last week, and Iowa Valley eclipsed that number. So the streak lives on, the 68-point streak for Iowa Valley and New London.
Yeah, it's been a crazy. Those teams definitely in recent history know how to score the ball.
Yes, they do.
Know how to score. But jumping into the next one, you just want to go back and forth on this?
Yeah, let's go back and forth.
All right, next up, we've got Sigourney Keota taking on Mid Prairie. The Cobras get it done, 21-14, another down to the wire game. A late block punt helped the Cobras complete a comeback road victory in Wellman. The Cobras trailed 14-6 after 3 quarters, but scored 15 in the 4th to down the Golden Hawks. Sigourney Keota only completed 1 pass in the win. On the ground, they were led by a 116-yard, 2-touchdown performance by Isaac Bruns, and Ike Mullenix ran for 59 yards in a score, and Mid Prairie's Brady Weber threw for 194 yards and a touchdown, while Hudson Ehrenfeld ran for 73 yards in a score. Real tough real tough start to the season for Mid Prairie after being ranked number 8, I think, to begin the season. They are now 0-3. played some very tough opponents. I think the first two games I think were against ranked opponents.
They are, and Sigourney
Sigourney
Kyoto could be
Kyoto
ranked
is a no joke either.
Mhm.
They've have been a pretty stellar team for some years now. So just a tough start for Mid Prairie, and those first two games they very well could have won. So they've just come out on the. It's just been I guess a tough road to start the season.
Yeah, this was another one I watched the end of this because it was 14-6. I was like, oh, it looks like Mid Prairie is going to win. And then the next message I got was that Sigourney Kyoto just scored the game-winning touchdown. And it was one of those games where those war of attrition games where the Sigourney Kyoto offense just wears you down. And because it's so methodical, they can, even late in the game, they can just keep grinding out yards. And but it was, I think it would have definitely went to overtime. But Mid Prairie got stopped. It was tied, and they took a couple. I mean, they let Brady Weber's got such a good arm. They let him. He's like a lefty Brett Favre back there. He's just like rolls out, and they kept putting Ehrenfeld deep because he's bigger and faster than everybody. And they just missed a couple deep balls that would have been huge. And then Sigourney Kyoto just bull rushed the punt and block punt, and so that set up the big touchdown. So big win for Sigourney Kyoto there. Big win for Highland, whose defense gets it done again. Highland 13. Sorry, I'm going to go back. I'm going to let you have Highland because I skipped one. Pekin and Danville. Another game I watched, a couple of highlights of Pekin 54-10 over Danville. It was actually only 6-3 after the first quarter. And let me tell you, I watched Henry Adam chuck the ball. I mean, they just air raided Danville to death in this one. And then on the ground, he started just taking off. And so he had another huge game. He's a kid where you don't know if he's going to throw for 350 yards or rush for 200 yards. But he ran for 163 and 5 touchdowns this time around. It's pretty much checkmate once they get into the red zone with him. And Henry Adams scored a couple touchdowns. Nolan Glick had over 150 yards all purpose. And Robert Brown had a pick 6. So this was Pekin's toughest task yet. And they passed the test over and over and over again. They are now ranked in the Cedar Rapids Gazette poll. They're tied for number 10. I actually ranked them a little higher. So a few more of those votes are from me. BC Moore, and people don't always love BC Moore. Some coaches hate it. It's like a little matrix ranking that it's supposed to be like unbiased. And I think after like week 4 or 5, it's totally unbiased. Pekin is number 1 in BC Moore in Class A right now. Not in the top 10, but number 1. And they play Columbus this week. The Columbus has got them all 3 times they've played the last 3 years. So very interested. I have to be interested because I will be there in Packwood this Friday night.
It's going to be a good game, I bet.
Now you can talk about Highland.
Yeah, I'm jumping up there. Jumping back to Highland, they get a 13-0 shutout victory over Van Buren County. The Huskies led just 6-0 at halftime on a pair of Jared Diaz field goals, and then ended up scoring on a Garrett Beeson rush in the fourth quarter to put the game away. The Huskies picked off 5 passes in the game, including 3 by Diaz. Wow, what a stat line there. Tyler Pearson and Colton Cypher each had picks as well, and then Logan McFarland recovered a fumble. So what a defensive performance by the Huskies there. Bryce Moquin led Van Buren County on the ground with 66 yards, and then Camden Newsmall had 56-yard receiving. So, well, that's a defensive performance if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be nice to pull out the record book, see if anyone's ever had 3 interceptions and 2 field goals in the same game. So weird full house, but that's what Jared Diaz did with this one. And Van Buren County, they've lost 3 games. 2 of them have been super close. They just need to figure out something offensively. And speaking of trying to figure out something offensively, and this was not a game where I expected them to bust out because Cardinal had to play Davis County. Davis County is absolutely on fire right now. Davis County comes in 69-6 over Cardinal. An SCC clash. Not a fun one for the Comets here. But they did get a 73-yard touchdown pass from Elijah Freeze to Chase Johnson. I got a phone call from somebody. We'll figure it out. So yeah, Cardinal falls to 0-3. I think schedule gets a little easier here coming, and they've played a few pretty darn powerful teams so far.
Yeah. And then the last game here is we've got number 8 Lisbon in Class A, 49-6 over Columbus. Really, obviously, Lisbon looking really, really good this year. One of the top 10 teams in Class A. So, no, they're just tough. But Riley Cowberg rushed for 101 yards and 1 touchdown in the loss for Columbus. And as we mentioned, Columbus taking on Pekin. Columbus has gotten the better of Pekin for the past couple of years now. So Pekin will be looking to kind of rewrite that narrative here come Friday night.
Yeah, shout out Scott Lamb, by the way. That Mount Pleasant 80 is the one who's calling me. So when you see this 2 days ago, 1 day from now, because this comes out on Thursday mornings, that's who was calling. You already said Lisbon and Columbus. So that's all for the small school. Football looks like we had win from Highland. There's 1 win from Pekin, win from SK. That's 3. And then we had 4 small school winners and 2 big school winners. So 6 and 7 was our area record. Almost got above that 500 mark, but a 6 and 7 week for the 13 area teams. And big week next week. Our big schools are all on the road. Hunter is going to be running around Burlington, where possibly the 2 closest games could be taking place. Mount Pleasant at Burlington and Mid Prairie at West Burlington. By the way, Mid Prairie, the district that Mid Prairie's in, that's got like Davis County and Albee in it. That's going to be a crazy district. But so see him flying around, trying to figure out which one's going to go on the wire. I will be at Pekin and Columbus. So tune in to Southeast Iowa Union opening drive Friday at noon for a breakdown of all those games. And we will be back with a little volleyball, and we're fresh off the volleyball court, so we're going to be so sharp on this one. We'll be right back.
At the Capper Auto Group, we put our customers' needs first and understand that everyone is as different as the vehicle they select. We offer new Ford, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram vehicles in a friendly environment that puts you in the driver's seat. When it comes to service, we maintain factory-trained technicians and competitive pricing. The Capper Auto Group still believes that service after the sale provides the best customer experience. Come see the Capper experience for yourself.
Federation Bank is a locally owned bank providing award-winning customer service. We believe that we are more than just a federation of banks, but a federation of communities, serving Brighton, Richland, Wellman, and Washington, Iowa. Federation Bank's highly skilled staff is here to make sure you are able to accomplish your personal and professional goals, whatever they may be. Federation Bank, your family bank.
Introducing Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every meal is a delight. Start your day with our mouthwatering breakfast options and savor flavorful lunches with friends and family. Cap off your day with our delectable dinners. Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every moment is delicious.
Washington County Hospital and Clinics, providing quality health care that puts you first. Whether during a hospital stay, seeing a primary care provider for wellness exams or sick visits, minor surgery to a total joint replacement, or recovering from an injury, we're here when you need us.
More than you expect for your health care. Washington County Hospital and Clinics.
Hello, and welcome back to Prep Sports Plus, brought to you by the Southeast Iowa Union. We're going to talk a little volleyball, powered by Fairway, by the way. We're going to talk a little volleyball. We were at some volleyball last night, and Hunter got such a good taste of the Fairfield-Washington rivalry, Highway 1 rivalry on Friday night at Case Field, but he decided to go to Fairfield High School last night, catch a little volleyball coming into this one. Washington, one of the favorites in the SEC, scuffling a little bit Fairfield's starting to pick it up a little bit, but what happened between these two teams?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we talked a little bit before the season. Obviously, Washington has played in some really tough tournaments to start the season. So they were, they had lost a few games, including, that tough one. Obviously played Mid-Prairie, and that one you were at against Burlington, which we kind of figured that Burlington and Washington would be kind of duking it out, as they had the most returners, I suppose. But in this one, Washington gets it done with a 3-0 sweep over the Trojans, 25-21, 25-14, and 25-21 again. It was a lot, despite the sweep, it was a lot closer besides that second set there. But, early on, the Trojans looked good. Fairfield took a 5-2 lead in that first set, but Washington just kept coming back. They tied at 5-5. Another small run by the Trojans put up 9-6. But then Washington put together a 6-0 run, kicked off by back-to-back blocks and a kill from Layla Green to make it 12-9. Following the Trojans took a timeout. After that, the two squads tied 4 times, with the last tie coming to 19-19. And after an errant hit from the Trojans, the Demons would never give up the lead in that first set there. And Green hammered home another kill late for the Demons to make it 23-20. Claire Thompson got the Trojans back to got them within 2 at 23-21. But a missed serve and another Green kill gave Washington the win in that first set. In set 2, it was pretty much all Washington late. Fairfield did lead 9-5 early on, but a 15-1 run from the Demons put them up 20-10, and that was more enough to put the game away. In the third set, it was kind of more of the same in the first set, except Washington led for the majority of the opening stages. The two teams were tied at 14-14 late, but from then on out, after Washington took a 18-15 lead, they would never lose it again. The Trojans were able to get it down to 1 at 22-21 after a kill from Jaden Haynes, but Fairfield or Washington ends it, scores the rest of the points in that third set to get the win. And really, a tough loss for Fairfield. Lily Bergen went down at the very end of the second set, rolled her ankle. So she was out for that for that third set. So really tough loss. Really tough.
That's
loss.
pretty impressive that they scored 21 without Berggren.
Yeah, because she's their kills leader and she's their digs leader. So she's a huge part of their huge part of what Fairfield does. So it's a tough loss for them, but they had girls step up and they played pretty well against a great Washington team. And on Washington's side, Coach Six and I even said, I was like, that was probably some of the best volleyball that I've seen them play. And he was saying that, and he said it was about like energy and being refreshed, and he felt like their slate of games, they were just playing game after game and they got a little break. He said this is probably the best that they've played. And yeah, they looked really good. They were getting up and hammering the ball. So huge win for Washington and Fairfield. A lot of Southeast Conference games to be played yet. So they're going to be looking to get back into it. But we expect nothing less. A couple solid matches there.
Yeah, a lot of Southeast Conference play, including the tournament, which, as we have to remind everyone, the regular season is just kind of seeding for the tournament. The tournament champion is the champion. Yep. And the leader in the clubhouse right now for the number 1 seed is Burlington. So Mount Pleasant tried to go in and score a road upset last night, couldn't get it done. 25-17, 25-14, 25-16 in favor of the Greyhounds, who just swept Washington the other day. So all of a sudden, Burlington is looking like the team to beat. We'll see if somebody can get them. Now they've already played Mount Pleasant and Washington. Have them at 2-0 right here. Maybe they haven't played Fort Madison yet, because I'm looking at the standings right here on Varsity Bound. It's a little wonky because I know that I'm pretty sure every team should have played 3 games. It's got Burlington 2-0, Washington 2-1. I know Burlington hasn't lost. I'm pretty sure they're 3-0. Washington 2-1, and then I'm pretty sure Fort Madison's 1-2. Varsity Bend has them at 1-1, but I'm pretty sure it goes Burlington 3-0, Washington 2-1, and then Fort Madison, Fairfield, Keokuk, Mount Pleasant, all 1-2. So not only are they fighting for position for the top seeds, which Burlington and Washington look to have a hold on right now, but those 4 teams below them looking for a little bit of momentum going in as well. Why don't we have some fun and see who everyone's playing next week? Mount Pleasant will be at Washington next week. Big one there. Start the rivalry there. I guess they ran cross country against each other the other day. Burlington will be at Keokuk, and that means that Fairfield and Fort Madison will be going at it. But where are they going to be going at it? They're going to be going at it at Fairfield High School. I was also, as we jump into the small school volleyball here, I was at a little small school volleyball last night. Went to Wayland for a little WACO-Columbus. 4-set win for Columbus. Let me tell you, I expected a battle coming into this one, and it was a battle in the 3rd and 4th set. First 2 sets were all Columbus. I looked at the clock midway through the 2nd set and said, is this going to end in 45 minutes? Columbus won 25-12 in the first one, and they won 25-11 in the second one. And so it was like, oh my goodness!
What a win for Columbus.
Look at Columbus. They were absolutely on fire in those first 2 sets. Just everything was going right for Columbus. Kind of stunned the home crowd there. Their JV team was behind the bench getting into it. Then all of a sudden, set 3 rolls in, and I saw Waco have a little powwow. Head coach Danae Drish, who was a Fairfield standout, gave him a little speech, and all of a sudden, 3rd set starts, and it's totally different. Waco jumped out to a 13-9 lead, which 13 points is more than they had in either of the first 2 games. They were up by 6. Columbus came battling back, tied the game at 22-22. Jessica Del Rio had an ace that tied it at 22-22, and then you started to see all the momentum going to Columbus. But Waco pulls it out. They scored the next 3. There were a lot in this set, and the one I'm about to talk about. There were a lot of long volleys where you just kept thinking it was going to fall, and something crazy happened. It was good desperation volleyball, and it was a very loud atmosphere after Waco started to punch back a little bit. And then in set 4, once again, Waco looked like they were in position to win this one. They were up 16-14, forced a Columbus timeout. Columbus came back, was tied 18-18. Then Columbus had a 23-20 lead, and then a 24-20 lead. And here came Waco, just, as I said, just kind of clawing back into it over and over and over again. They get it to 25-23. Morgan Meyer was on the serve, and she had in a lot of these Waco runs, she was serving at that point. Brenna Graber was really starting to heat up for Waco. They were starting to go to her a lot, but Del Rio got back to the serve. Well, once it was 24-20, Waco gets it to 24-23, and another one of those crazy little desperation battles, and Audrey Hoback ends up sneaking it right over the net, right behind the front row for Waco, falls in, and Columbus in a 4th setter avoids the 5th set, and the Columbus Wildcats, and something just happened. Someone just fell down or something, either in our kitchen or in the apartment above us. But the Columbus Wildcats win in Waco, and you have the other winners from last night.
Yeah, got some the rest of the school. I can't speak. Small school winners here. Highland taking on Pekin. That was one of the other games that we thought about going to, and it shaped out to be
that was the bubble.
That one shaped out to be a really good game. 3-2 win for Highland. Went down to the wire. Needed 5 sets, as mentioned, to decide a winner. The 2 teams basically traded sets. basically traded sets throughout the match, and Highland won the first set, so that meant that they won the fifth set. But so they won the first set 25-18. Pekin won the second 25-16. Highland won the third 25-12. Pekin 25-19 in the fourth, and then Highland 15-13 in the fifth set to win it. Haley Brunn with 10 kills for Highland. She also had 11 digs to lead the way. Lainey Skelton had 27 assists. Emerson Schultz and Adeline Krutz and Haiti Carrick all had 3 aces as well for Highland.
Real quick, Hunter. Highland is now 4-0 in the conference.
Yeah, they're looking really good.
Division teams in a tournament early in Kyoto that I watched them in, and since then they've just been on a tear. So Highland Huskies starting to battle for the North.
Yeah, they're looking really good against the conference opponents. Only one other winner from Tuesday night. Hillcrest Academy 3-1 over the Wise and Muscatine. The Ravens won 2 straight sets, 25-20 and then 25-14. The Falcons stole the third, 30-28. So that one was a pretty high scoring one there. But then Hillcrest wins it with a 25-23 win in the fourth. Malia Yoder, 25 kills in the win. Claire Withrow, 41 assists. And then Yoder also had a team high 27 digs, and Lydia Beachy had 23. And Withrow notches 4 aces on the night. The rest of the games, just 3 more, were losses for our area teams. Number 9, West Burlington sweeps 3-0 Van Buren County. That one ended 25-10, 25-10, and 25-15. And then Iowa Valley 3-0 over Kyoto. This was on Monday night. The Eagles were beaten 25-10, 25-20, and 25-11. And finally, Winfield Mount Union falls 3-0 to Wapello. The Wolves kept it close, but ended up falling 25-17, 26-24, and then 25-17. Kinley Buffington, 8 kills for WMU. Madison Kellogg, 14 assists. Kelly Milks, 17 digs. Quinn Smith, Milks, and Kellogg each had an ace as well. So 2 winners, Highland and Hillcrest, get some wins. And then Van Buren County, Kyoto, and Winfield Mount Union all fall the early part of this week. So there's a few teams seeing some successes in the win column there. So,
yeah, the Super North. Looking through some of the games between like when Hillcrest and Highland played, and then Highland and Pekin and Winfield and WACO and Columbus, they're all seem. Wapello does have a little. Sorry, I was getting something ready. Did you talk about Wapello and Winfield last night?
Yeah.
So Winfield almost took one from Wapello. Clearly does have a little bit of an edge on the rest of the North. But after that, it's just totally a dogfight down there. I think pretty much anyone can beat anyone from what we've seen, at least in a set or two. That's what we got for volleyball. We will be back with a little cross country, and your man Andy was at a little cross country just recently. So, I've got a fun story. Do not go away, because I've got a fun story to tell that I haven't told on the show yet, because it happened on Thursday night. So, do not go away.
Attention Hy-Vee shoppers, introducing Hy-Vee Perks, your ticket to exclusive savings and rewards. Access exclusive perks, prices, earn gas discounts, and unlock special deals. All this for free. Join Hy-Vee Perks today and start saving.
At Seafirst Credit Union, we're all about making connections, like how we connect you with a flexible financing you need to install that all-season room or remodel your kitchen with a home equity line of credit. Connect with Seafirst today and see why together is better.
Hey, you want to see something really scary?
3, chills, and things that go bump in the night. The Russians' House of Terror.
In the heart of rural Iowa, where community matters most, the connections we make are made to last. Meet KCTC, your hometown internet, phone, and TV provider. At KCTC, we're not just about technology, we're about people. Our dedicated team are your neighbors, committed to bringing you top-tier services right where you live. We believe in giving back to the community that raised us. Experience the power of a real connection with KCTC. Join us in building a stronger, more connected Southeast Iowa.
Prep Sports Plus C Block, powered by Fairway. Hunter, have I told you what happened at the cross-country meet at all on Thursday that I was at?
No, you have not.
Sometimes, because Hunter and I split stuff up, sometimes like Hunter will be at something like last night, Fairfield, Washington volleyball. When I was talking to him earlier, I actually didn't know what happened because we'll each cover something and we won't cross our brains because the other one's writing about us. I think I forgot to notify Hunter on Thursday, but something crazy happened at the cross-country meet I was at. I was at the annual Fairfield cross-country meet, which, as we talked about last week, had 20 schools there, a bunch of teams. And first off, we didn't have any team winners. We had 2 individual winners. Marie Yoder wins on the girls' side, and for Hillcrest Academy. Technically, she also won the 1A, 2A girls. She finished ahead of Washington's Ira Stahl, who did win the 3A, 4A portion of that, but they all ran together. So Marie finished ahead of Ira Stahl. Let me talk, and then Lincoln Bainbridge of Van Buren County won for the boys. Let me talk about each race individually for a second, especially this girls one. So the girls race, going in, it's like we knew this was going to be a good race because Hunter, there's Marie Yoder's there, and she is racing against Ira Stahl from Washington and Avery Rump from Fort Madison. You could even say just there are other Fort Madison girls that are in the picture. There are a lot of good Fort Madison girls. So, they go by the first time in the pack. They go by the second time, and as expected, it's Ira Stahl, it's Avery Rump, and it's Marie Yoder battling just side by side by side. I legitimately did not know who was going to win. So they run by me, and then the other girls are right close behind them, like a few Fort Madison girls, and Quincy Griffiths was over there. Kentry Lee from Mount Pleasant was in that area, and I was getting ready to take a picture of them. Behind me, I hear someone say, somebody was like, "Whoa," kind of like that, like something happened, which caused me to turn, and I see this creature running. I mean, between me and the camera right now, it like almost brushed up against me, and it was sprinting. It was a deer. I thought it was a dog at first. Flew by. I was like, what the heck? That's a deer. And so I was like, I got to get my camera. You'll notice there wasn't any pictures of the newspapers because I should tweet them out. I did not do a very good job.
Should.
I didn't have one focused picture of a deer. The deer runs, and this is why the deer runs by. I'm like, oh crud, that's running right by the leaders. So I went to try and take a picture. It didn't turn out well. And then as I turn, there's like 6 more deer coming at the exact same rate that sprinted right by me and directly through the course. It didn't knock any runners over, but a few runners had to stop. And in fact, the leaders, both Iris and Marie, said that the deer caused them to like stop. So and start running because they were going to get literally rammed in. If the deer were a little bit later and it was the pack, or they were a little bit earlier when the big pack was there, they would have. The deer was not. They were running like wild. Like there was no regard for human life. So
they were just dead sprint.
They were dead sprint. It would have been a situation where they literally took out a bunch of runners like bowling pins. We barely. So that was pretty crazy. And so then back to the actual battle. It got down right to the end. Rump for Fort Madison tailed off just a little bit at the end, which left Yoder and Dahl to the sprint. And Marie Yoder just absolutely booked it, went crazy. And in fact, I'll just jump ahead because I was looking at the English Valley's race last night. 20 minutes and 57 seconds in English Valley's last night, wins again on the girls' race. In fact, there wasn't a senior in the top 11 from this girls' race. A lot of Sigourney girls, North Mahaska girls. So Maria's now beaten the girls from Southeast Iowa and Fairfield. And then a week later, she beats the girls a little closer to Central Iowa. Lincoln Bainbridge, there was a big group of runners that included Colby Newsom from Winfield Mount Union, Lincoln Bainbridge from Van Buren County, and a few others. The Washington kids, Tyler Alderton and Andrew Reese were all in this. And towards the end of it,
You good?
Oh, Hunter, you're frozen. Wait, no, you moved. Have you heard me this whole time?
Yeah.
Okay, my computer battery started to die, and then you just froze for a second. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, long story long, Bainbridge wins. Van Buren County got second as a team. Van Buren County brings a lot back in cross country right now. So that was a fun one. English Valley's last night, as I just said, Marie Yoder picks up a win on the girls' side, and on the boys' side, looks like Jude Dykstra, who now runs for Waco, got second. 18-18 for Jude, just lost to a kid from English Valleys. So some pretty positive runs from our varsity high school runners. By the way, Mount Pleasant middle schooler Avery Fedler won the middle school girls race at Fairfield by like 2.5 minutes. We'll be talking about her a lot next year. She's already about as fast as the fastest.
And she's been to the national meet, and she was like top. I'm pretty sure she was top 15 in the country at the national meet, like out in Oregon, like over the summer.
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun next year to watch, to see if she can battle with because Dahl and Rump, and that's 2 top 5 runners in 3A, and then you got Washington and Fort Massey will still bring plenty back next year, so that'll be pretty crazy. But that's next year, and this year, let's look forward before we let you go. Where the heck is cross country going to be at tomorrow night, Hunter? Do we know yet?
We don't.
Next week's Mount Pleasant.
Let me see here.
Thursday night. Where are they running tomorrow?
Here we go.
It's not
Thursday. They are. Wait, is that middle school?
Oh, are they at the rodeo park?
Yes.
Is there going to be a rodeo tomorrow night?
Yes, sir. Rodeo Park.
Rodeo Park in Fort Madison. That's how it usually goes. Usually it's Fairfield, Fort Madison. I think Mount Pleasant's next week, and then Washington. So we might be there. We'd be there at volleyball, but yeah, that's all I got for you guys. And my computer's about to die. So Hunter, when will we see him?
We'll see him next week.
Watch opening drive on Friday. Also, before you watch opening drive on Friday, real quick, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., watch Morning Breath on our channels. It's a news show, but I am going to be on it tomorrow. So watch all of it. Just put our YouTube on, the smart TV. Don't turn it off for the rest of the week.
Anything that comes up, just watch it.
Goodbye.